Oh, hey mathematicians, it's Justin again. Mia and I are checking out the next painting on display at the Mathematical Masterpieces art exhibit. This is Composition 8 by Vasily Kandinsky. Observe for a second. What catches your eye? I'm noticing line segments like we learned about in our last lesson, and I'm also noticing where the lines meet each other to form wide and narrow corners. By the end of today's lesson, you'll be able to name, identify, and describe different types of angles, measure angles with a protractor, and find missing angle measurements. Have your guided notes ready, and let's explore the math behind the masterpiece. These wide and narrow corners actually have a special name. They're called angles, the space formed when two rays or line segments share a common endpoint. And that endpoint where they meet is called a vertex. Angles are all around us, anywhere straight lines meet to form a corner. And just like lines and rays, angles can be named using points. To name an angle, we use 3 points, 1 point on each ray, and the point that makes the vertex of the angle. For instance, this angle has points A, C, and F. Since point F is the vertex, it'll be the middle letter when we name it. So we can call this angle AFC or angle CFA. We can measure angles with a protractor, and the units marked along the round edge are called degrees. What do you notice about these numbers? You might have noticed that there are 2 sets of numbers that start at 0, have a middle mark at 90, and go to 180. There are a few specific types of angles that can be measured. Remember when we learned about perpendicular lines that form a square corner where they meet? Well, a square corner is actually called a right angle, and it always measures exactly 90 degrees. Any angle that measures less than 90 degrees is called an acute angle. And any angle that measures more than 90 degrees is called an obtuse angle. Check out what happens when you put 2 right angles together. They each measure 90 degrees, so what do you think the measurement of the total angle is? 180 degrees. We could call this a straight angle because it makes a straight line. Now it's your turn to practice classifying acute, obtuse, right, and straight angles. Pause the video here to match each angle with its correct angle type. Angle BGE is a straight angle. Angle HDJ makes a square corner, so it's a right angle. Angle KLM is an acute angle. And angle CFA is an obtuse angle. Nice job. Now that you know how to classify angles, you should really learn how to measure them with a protractor. First, line up the center of the protractor with the vertex of the angle. Make sure one ray of the angle lines up with 0 degrees on the protractor. Then follow the other ray and read the measurement where it crosses the number scale. That number tells you the angle's measurement in degrees. Oh, looks like Mia's going to help us out by guiding us through measuring a couple of angles. Thanks, Mia. First up, angle CFA. Mia's going to line up the center of the protractor with the vertex and line up one arm of the angle with the 0 degree line on the protractor. Now, check out where the other arm of the angle points. Ooh, there are 2 different numbers here. What do we know about obtuse angles that can help us decide whether 50 degrees or 130 degrees makes the most sense as the measurement? Well, we know that an obtuse angle should have a measurement that is greater than 90. So 130 degrees makes the most sense. Most protractors have two sets of numbers, one starting from 0 degrees on the left and the other set from 0 degrees on the right. It's important to use the correct side of the protractor based on which way the angle opens up. You might need to rotate your protractor around to make sure one line of the angle you're measuring lines up with the 0 line on the protractor. We already identified angle HDJ as a right angle, but let's measure it to be precise. Even though it looks like a square corner, using a protractor will confirm whether it truly measures 90 degrees. Line up the vertex of the angle with the center of the protractor, making sure one ray of the angle lines up with the 0 degree mark. Now follow the other ray. Where does it cross the protractor? It measures 90 degrees, so we know for sure that angle HDJ is a right angle. Even when an angle looks like a familiar type, using a protractor helps us measure precisely. Pause the video here to measure angle KLM yourself. Remember that thinking about the type of angle can help you find the correct measurement. Just like on a ruler, the smaller tick marks between the larger numbers represent individual degrees. This is an acute angle, so the measurement is between 70 and 80 degrees. We need to count the tick marks to get an accurate measurement. 71, 72, 73, 74, 75. Angle KLM is 75 degrees. Sometimes we know part of an angle's measurement, but we need to figure out a missing part. We can use part-part-whole relationships to help. We know angle HDJ measures 90 degrees, so if angle JDI measures 30 degrees, how can we find the missing angle measurement? We could subtract 90 minus 30, which equals 60. So the missing part, angle IDH, measures 60 degrees. What about working with a straight angle, like angle BGE? The total measurement is 180 degrees, and this part, angle EGP, is 85 degrees. Pause here to find the missing angle measurement for angle BGP and record your thinking in your guided notes. Since 85 is part of the whole, and we know the whole is 180, we subtract 180 minus 85. That gives us the measurement for the missing part, or angle BGP, 95 degrees. Nice work, mathematicians. I think we're ready to take another look at Kandinsky's painting. Pause the video here to identify an acute, obtuse, right, and straight angle. Place points at the vertex and along the rays of each angle so you can name them correctly using 3 points. Since there are so many ways to place points and identify angles in this artwork, yours probably looks different from mine, and that's okay. What matters is that each angle matches the criteria for its type. Acute is less than 90 degrees, obtuse is greater than 90 degrees, right is exactly 90 degrees, and a straight angle forms a 180 degree line. And remember, when naming your angles, the vertex is always the middle letter in the angle's name. This is to clearly communicate which angle you're referring to. Vasily Kandinsky wasn't just creating random shapes, he was using angles and structure to bring energy and movement into his artwork. So, what have we learned today, besides the fact that the world and art are full of angles? Well, now you know that angles are named after the points on their rays, with the vertex in the middle. You know that acute, obtuse, right, and straight angles can be identified based on their characteristics. You also know that angles are measured using a protractor, and missing angle measurements can be found by using part-part-whole relationships. Be sure to complete the practice questions and extension activities that go with this lesson to practice measuring and working with angles. And remember, mathematicians, in math, as in life, every effort adds to your success. I'll see you next time.